Hello, welcome to another wide open garage episode. Today, working on the big old gal. This is Tiny. I don't know that Tiny has been officially introduced to the channel yet. This is my 2000 Ford Excursion. This particular one has the Triton V10 6.8 liter monster under the hood. This one also has the standard 3-speed with overdrive and 4-wheel drive. This one, however, has been modified with a rough country lift kit that brings it up, well, to where the hood hits me in the chin. It's a bit of an extreme lift. It's also got some aftermarket 20-inch wheels. I believe they're Rhino brand. I'll show you those in a minute. And some 35-inch by 12.5-inch wide tires. It's a big truck. It is also a gas guzzling truck. But what is not unique about this one is the fact that it has the typical Ford, what I have come to find out, the typical Ford battery light that comes on the dash. And when you look in here at my battery cables, you'll notice that whoever had this before, well, let's just say they could have done better. So we're gonna get those knocked out today in conjunction with, and this video is sponsored by, Kimball Midwest. They're a tool company, and I am in contact with one of the salesmen there who is going to let me do some reviews on some of the tools. The one we have today I'm really excited about. I've actually used this tool in the past. It's really, really cool. I would highly recommend it if you're doing especially upfit stuff, messing with battery cables often, any heavy gauge type stuff, or copper lugs, even steel lugs too, it will do. It's a really, really handy tool to have around. So with all of that out of the way, let's get the tool out. Let's get an idea of what it's going to take to make a couple of cable ends, and let's get to it. So this is the battery crimping tool from Kimball Midwest. I'll have a link in the description for it, but it comes in this really nice hard plastic carrying case, and even comes with extra O-rings for rebuilding it if it decides to leak. But this is the tool. It's handheld. Part number is a 27-799, and it does just exactly that. It crimps battery cable, which is fantastic. So I'll show you an example of what this will do, and then we'll jump over to the truck. It does have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different sizes that it will adapt to and for, which is fantastic. I've got some 4-gauge cable here. I'll grab one of these lugs, which is actually a little big for 4-gauge, but it will do the trick and show you the example anyway. Well, it's actually really big, so we're going to put it on over the coating just for the sake of the example. We've got, let's call that 2-gauge. So we're going to pull these out of here. They'd simply lift up and out. And they go back down in their little spot in the case. Snap these in, and they've got a little groove in there with a detent inside of the tool that they snap into, just like that. And then you take and lay the cable in there. Let's see if we can do this where we can all see it. Turn that to on. Lay the cable in there where you want it. Crank it up. And of course, once it bites, you're good to go there. And you simply crank down on it. Until you can't pull it out anymore. And that actually just about smashed that thing flat. Again, not being the right size cable for the copper lug, it's going to look a little goofy, but there you have it. It's on there, and I promise you it's not coming off, not for a very long time. So very handy very, very handy tool to have around, especially when you're doing all kinds of new builds and things like that, but also even for fixes like we're going to do today on the terminal ends for my truck. So let's jump back over there and we'll show you what we're going to do there to get this fixed up. So the first thing we're going to do is pull the terminal ends off, and the correct way to do that is to start with the negative terminal side. So we'll yank that one off of there real quick. That wasn't very tight at all. So now we have that one out of the way, we can pull the positive, and that one's on there a little better. There we go. Get it worked around and set that one over there out of the way. So we're going to start with this one here, and you see what I'm dealing with, the corrosion and stuff that's left inside of here. I've also got some heat shrink that I'm going to put on this after we get it all cleaned up and back together. But I'm going to try and put both of these in the same crimp together. I hope I have enough cable here to be able to reach it all, but I'm going to blow this apart real quick and cut the corroded portions off. We'll cut the sheathing back a little ways so we can get the cable in there where it needs to be, and then we'll crimp it down and hopefully have a lot better overall connection. You see there how it just wiggles away, and those could probably be tightened up some, but it's just going to continue to do the same thing. So I could even, yeah, completely pull that off and drop it down inside the engine compartment where I can't find it ever again. But we'll get this cleaned up, get that corrosion cut back out of there, and put that thing back together. All right, so we do still have some dirt and junk in there, but the copper looks good. It's not corroded, it's not full of the buildup and stuff like that, so we're going to go with it. And those actually look like they should work very well on going into one of those copper lugs that I've got that will fit over that quite nicely. I'm also noticing on the copper lugs, if you're buying good quality copper lugs, I don't know how well you can see that in the video, but they usually have a stamp on them that tells you what size cables are good for. This one is 1/0 or 1/0. It tells you, yeah, the size that it is. So that's a handy little cheat for when you're going to set up your tools, especially. I had the 2/0, the 2 gauge crimp on the tool a little bit ago, so it's actually a little small for what this copper lug is. Jaws in there, and I'm going to make sure that that is in the on position. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crank this up, because I only have so many hands. I'm going to crank this up till it just starts biting on that copper lug. I'm also going to look at the orientation of it as well, because I want this to lay down well when I go to put it on the terminal end. So right about there where it just starts getting a little resistance, and then I can lay this down here and slide both cables all the way up inside. Crank down on that thing, and I'm gonna go till those jaws are basically touching each other. Ugh. And then back it off, and there we have it. Whoop. The jaw stayed on there. Uh-oh, it didn't work. It didn't work. Let's try it again. Y'all let me know in the comments below, what's the difference in 1 gauge and 1/0? Because I actually have 2 different jaws in this kit. One has 1 AWG, the other one has 0-1 or 1-0 AWG. I'm curious what the difference is. Someone who knows those kinds of things better than I do should definitely let me know in the comments. Don't you agree, Grant?
Yes.
They should tell me what I don't know, huh?
Yes.
So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to employ my my son here, who's standing around watching me instead of helping me.
And drinking fun.
Oh, and drinking water, yeah. And have him crank on that. Alright, I'm going to hold these in here if you will do the tool there with my fingers out of the way. Okay, hold on just a minute. Let me get a little better angle on it. Alright.
That good stuff.
Yeah.
At least it
There
stays
we
on.
go.
Yeah, at least it stays on good though.
Now we've got a good bite. Thank you. I don't think this is going to be, nope, nowhere near big enough. So that'll be something that I have to get in the future to help keep the corrosion out of this connection, is some heat shrink. This stuff right here, if you've never used it, it's actually pretty handy. Anyway, I'll get some more of that later and get all that buttoned up. For now, let's do the positive terminal. We know we've got that one on there good. We don't know where the negative terminal went, although it's down in the truck somewhere. We'll look for that later. So this one is even tighter and less room to be able to work with. So I'm going to back that off there and see if we can work with just the cable that's exposed, so I don't have to shorten that thing up anymore, because I'm afraid if I do, we will run out of cable length altogether. So let's see how bad off that is. Doesn't feel too terrible. It's not all full of dirt, quite like the negative terminal was. Let's see if we can get that all to fit inside. Indeed it will. So we'll bottom that thing down on there. Turn that to on. And crank down on this thing here. So with the cable holding the copper lug on well enough anyway. I'll push that back a little more. Alright, now that's holding it good. We'll push that on there as far as we can and then crank down on it. There we go. Alright, now we got a good bite. Oh yeah, much better.
For sure.
Much better. Yeah, we got that one the first go around instead of 3 or 4 times later. So on these terminals, these are, you know, cheap replacement terminals. They are designed to try and bite down and hold the cable inside of there. You see little grooves cut in it, but a lot of times they just, this piece in the middle will bend and relax, and with the heat cycles and everything else, eventually they'll break and crack. So what I like to do is I'm going to put this terminal back on the post, and then I'm actually going to put it on this other side. I'm going to put that piece of cable, or that copper lug rather, with that little strap down through the hole on the copper lug. This will do a couple of things. One is that strap acts as a washer, but the other is these bolts don't back off typically as easily as what that strap will bend. So you end up with a lot tighter, a lot more consistent connection, which a lot of times is what happens with these Fords especially. They just get to the point where the ground doesn't want to make good contact anymore, or someone has changed out the terminals like on mine, and just got to go in there and clean them up and replace them. So we're gonna get this tightened up on here and then go digging for that other terminal. I'm going to interrupt your regularly scheduled video for a quick thought. Things like dropping tools and or parts down inside of the engine bay are the kinds of things that take the average 20-minute job well over the 2-hour mark. I have been looking for the battery terminal connector, this piece right here, for a solid 20 minutes trying to find it. I actually had to, I'm gonna switch this around so you can see. I had to remove a bolt right there and a plastic clip back over in there. Pull this whole piece down and hope that it was tucked in there, which thankfully it was. But that's after looking around all in here, looking around all of in here, down underneath the washer bottle. My next step was to pull the battery. I really didn't want to have to pull the battery. So there you go. When you tell your wives or girlfriends that it's a 20-minute job, always take into consideration silly things like this that quickly turn it into something it is not. And wives and girlfriends, please understand, we really do mean for it to take 20 minutes. And it's things like this, dropping parts into the engine bay, which is, I mean, it's nobody's fault, but that's the kinds of things that mean a 20-minute job takes 2 hours. It's just the nature of what it is. So keep that in mind. It might save a little strife in your marriage or relationship. Just saying. Back in action. Finally came up with this. I also left the inner fender well loose so that in case I drop this again or some part of it, I can quickly and easily get it back out before I go putting the bolts and the little snap piece back in on there. So here we go. I'm going to throw this terminal on here and then hook this cable up to it. Now again, I do still want to put some heat shrink on both of these because the risk is that it could come in contact with the hood, which this one's got a fabric cover on the bottom of, but it could come in contact with the hood. Something could get shut in here with it. I mean, any number of things could happen potentially that could risk. You could accidentally lay a wrench across a couple of terminals like I almost did there a couple of times. Oh, see, 20-minute job, and all of a sudden it's not a 20-minute job anymore. Here we go again. Let's try this again. Now we got a good strong hold. I crimped that back even further, so we should be able to bite down onto that even better. So get that thing to lay on there correctly. Oh, wait a minute. What do I want? That on top. There we go. Now we've got a good tight connection there. We've got a good tight connection there. It's all back together. I'm going to fire up the truck, make sure it runs, and make sure the battery light stays off. All clear. There we go. Yay, no battery light. That's good. Now, just that little bit of idling isn't really a foolproof test, but it'll at least give us an idea that it's working somewhat right. So we're gonna call it a win this time. But yeah, as far as this tool is concerned, don't fault the cable coming apart on the tool. That was all me. I didn't get it crimped back far enough on there to be able to act right. So there you have it. The crimp tool from Kimball Midwest, part number, where'd the part number go? There it is, 27-799. There'll be a link in the description for this, and I will also include a way of contacting Glenn to be able to get you one of these ordered for yourself, because they really are worth it, and they're really not that expensive either. Every once in a while they go on sale even. So yeah, be sure you check that out. Thanks so much for joining me today, joining us. Grant, thanks for the help today, bud. And remember, whether you are at the track, over the road, in the dirt, or on the water, however you live your life, be sure you live it wide open. We'll see you next time. Now I gotta clean up.